there's one more thing I need to update you on. Because I was in Orlando last week, my aunt, when she came over to clean, didn't give me the questions that she came up with 10 questions. I don't know, around 10 questions. Might be more, might be less. I don't know. I told her to come up with 10 questions so that we could do a blind spirit box test. I said, come up with questions that I won't know the answer to. I will ask the spirits, and if we get any true answers that come through, then we can say maybe there's more to this. Well, if you guys were watching the channel a week ago, more than a week ago, I was out in the woods and I just said, hey, let's do a double blind test and let's ask the spirits if they can answer some of Aunt Angie's questions before she even gives them to me. Is that confusing? Are you still following what's going on here? I don't know. But anyway, so we recorded that out in the bush and I got all kinds of answers and I put them up on the screen, and I don't know what Aunt Angie was going to ask, so anything I heard, I put it down on the video, whether it made sense or not. And my aunt was laughing. She told me, she said, I'm going to bring you my questions tomorrow. And she said, I watched your video pre-screening, doing the double blind test here. She said, they answered one of my questions. And I said, no freaking way. She said, yes. She said, in that video, the answer to one of my questions is there. And I don't even know what she's asking because I told her, don't tell me. Tomorrow she's going to bring me the 10 questions. And then I asked her, as an afterthought, I said, also on a separate piece of paper, write down the answers to those questions. So when I do the session and finish that video, we can then open the envelope with her answers in it. And we will be able to immediately see, did the spirits get any of this right? But for now, for today, let's just ask some questions about what I'm finding here.
This guy, this convict serial killer looking dude, he's got a name as well.
All right, I apologize. That was rude. This guy was probably the most innocent. He just has that look about him. Wouldn't trust him with my daughter, which would probably be his great-great-great-great-granddaughter. I don't know who this guy was. Okay, so let's switch to the other photo here. Oh, that's funny. I opened the book, multiple pages here, and I'm right in the right spot. Thanks for helping me, spirits. C. Hibbard is the gentleman in this photograph. Is that C.V. Hibbard, Caspar V. Hibbard, from 1808 to 1883? He would be my great-great-great uncle, I think. He was my great-grandfather's great-great-uncle. Okay, so talking to Aunt Angie, I was looking at a couple more of these. We looked at Archie Reed right here. That is my great-great-grandfather. I didn't know that. He died in 1916. And then as I'm looking across the photos here, I think I found something, guys, that is gave me a full shiver. If this is who I think it is, I think this is my grandfather Henry with his first wife. I'm going to flip around and show you guys. She died in childbirth in 1910. We talked about full body shiver right down my arms. But it says H. Reed and wife is what is handwritten underneath this photograph. It's got to be Henry Reed. Now why it doesn't say her name was Elizabeth, but she went by Lizzie.
Okay, so if this is who I think it is, right here it says H. Reed and wife. That would be my great-grandfather, Henry. He's got a book in his lap, and that would have been his wife, Elizabeth, his first wife. And she died in 1910 in childbirth, and the baby died as well. And it wasn't until 20-some years later that Grandpa Henry then moved up north to marry my great-grandmother, Della Reed. I want to talk to the woman in this photograph. What is her name? I'm just editing the session I did in the laundry room yesterday with the family photo album. And there was a clip here that immediately, to me, it sounded backwards. I couldn't make heads or tails of what was being said. And I've never noticed this before. There's a shiver down my neck. When you play things in reverse, they draw out. Well, this clip played forward, so just as we recorded it, sounded like that to me. And because last week we had taken the time to delve into this playing things in reverse mystery, I thought, what if I flip this around? Can I make heads or tails out of this? I can't make sense of it forward. It doesn't mean anything to me, but when I play it in reverse, it sounds like it says, my own pain. And we're talking about a woman here who was married to my great-grandfather, wasn't part of the family or this album that she ended up in, and they wrote her down as H. Reed, my grandfather, and wife. They didn't even put her name. And the spirits had started this conversation by saying, not important as far as they figured. They didn't even think she was important enough to put her name in the book because she died. It didn't matter. He moved on. 20 years later, he remarried great-grandma. That's what I'm getting from that, but she's saying that was painful that she wasn't remembered. She wasn't even put in the book with her name. That's what I'm getting from that.
What is the man beside her? What is his name?
The next clip starts with her saying, go ahead, like ask your question. And then the question was, who is this fella in the picture with this woman? And it says, gotcha. And I heard that right away and I was like, what does she mean, gotcha? And then, as clear as a bell, it says, Henry. And I got the biggest full shiver. I actually had to pause the video. I was like, oh, it was just like waves. And then I realized she said, gotcha. Because it's almost like they knew that would happen when I heard this. You can't deny this. It is as clear as can be. Henry is in this photo. And it doesn't say that anywhere. It just says H. Reed. I'm supposing it's Henry. And then the spirit box tells me that is Henry. And it makes sense. That is Henry.
What is the man beside her? What is his name? Were they happy? So I could be wrong about who that is, but I don't think so.
Right here, it says Dan Reed.
Okay, so Archie and Dan. Dan was Archie's brother. That was...
So Archie was my great-grandfather.
Yes.
Okay, didn't know that.
And Dan, there's a photo of both of them here. There's writing coming through in the book. So we've got Archie and Dan beside each other. And you said you knew some stuff about Dan?
Well, I heard or seen a picture before. It was Dan's heart. He had a hardware store in Hamilton or something. And anyways, my grandfather, I think that he went and got his rifle when he was coming up north to go hunting on the French River. He wanted a 35 Remington, but they didn't have any. So he ended up taking that 38-55 and came hunting with that. That was his gun always since. But anyways, I'm often wondered, which I got nothing to base this upon. When you look at an old Western, sometimes you'll see a funeral parlor and a hardware store together. I'm wondering if old Dan, my great uncle, would have had a funeral parlor too with the hardware store. Why I'm saying that is because my grandfather told me during the Spanish flu, he went in and moved bodies out of homes. And I said, that must have been sad. Oh yeah, sometimes we took parents out of a house and there was maybe 3, 4 little kids left in that house. And he said, we took out the bodies. And I said, you never got sick? No, I never got sick, he said. So I'm wondering if he took them out with his Uncle Dan or somebody else. Why would he go and remove the bodies, you know?
Yeah, maybe. Makes sense. So, but for sure he owned a hardware store, and he would have sold his nephew his first hunting rifle in the 1920s.
Yeah, if not before, yeah.
I think, nope, because I remember we had a receipt for that gun, the 3855. I did see a receipt for it, and I'm pretty sure it was 1921.
Well, could be. I don't remember ever seeing that. It's funny how that doesn't stick in my mind because stuff I remember.
I think when Grandpa died, that was one of the things we found in the house. There was a receipt for that gun, 1921.
Oh, could have well been then.
Yep. So we know then that he must have lived longer than his brother because his brother, Archie, died in 1916.
Well, so then certainly he did.
Yep. So this is the kind of sleuth thing we have to do to piece all this stuff together anyway.
Yeah, well, you get more names out of there for sure, but that's, I remember that's something I've seen pictures on that. Old Uncle Dan, he always said Uncle Dan, and I guess that's who his Grandpa Dan was named after, Uncle Dan.
That's what I figured. And finally, to end this session, because I've got a lot of stuff to go through, I want to talk to my favorite person from this pile of pictures here, who has come through twice, said her name multiple times, said she's listening, wants to talk. My favorite person here. Let's turn on the spirit box one last time, and can we get this person to say their name and come through again? I'll put the name on the screen of the first name anyway. Again, can you confirm who you were to me? How are we related? Alright guys, that's going to do it for this session because I have a lot of stuff to go over, but man, it's blowing my mind that this miracle has happened where this ink is coming through these pages. Thank goodness I didn't take all of these pictures out of here and just toss the book because it's so smelly, it's so damaged, water damaged, smoke damaged. That's what I was going to do, guys. And for some reason, I've just kept it here drying in the laundry room for the last few weeks. Thank goodness I did that because now we're going to have a lot more clues, hopefully, to work with. I would never have known that that fellow there, Archie Reed, was my great-great-grandfather or what he looked like or, you know, that he died in 1916. It's just amazing stuff to me. The history, it blows my mind. And hopefully, if we get some coherent answers from the spirit box, you know, it's just, full body shiver like they're saying, of course you're going to get answers. Stay tuned, guys.